Okay, good evening. We are going to kick things off. We're still waiting for a couple of others to join the call at the moment, but we're just going to move forwards and get things underway. So just to give a quick overview here, we are going to be talking specifically about client onboarding processes tonight. I think that client onboarding is probably one of the, if not the biggest process that we can actually go through as cleaning business owners. It is the first time that the client gets to see us, gets to experience us as a business. So hence why I'm really keen on this, and everybody that I speak to, I try and double down on this specific process. So we are going to, what I'll do in just a second is share my screen. I'll pull up a very sort of brief presentation and a couple of talking points that I want to run through. Just a bit of housekeeping before we do that. We do have a Q&A function here on the call. It should be, if you're on a laptop or computer, it should be sort of somewhere here. It is on my screen at least. If you're on your phone, you should just be able to tap one of the buttons. I think it's at the top, and put some messages in the Q&A. If you've got anything whilst we're going along, I will try and pick them up as we go along, so I can answer that for you sort of in real time. And if there's a bit of Q&A at the end, then of course we can jump into that. If you are watching and you are in the growth team, obviously we can jump into a call either after this or whenever you want to really double down on this and implement this into your business. So obviously use the functions wisely. So if you just bear with me 1 second, I will share my screen. He says optimistically. Fantastic. Oh, we there? We are there. Lovely. So if you can't see that, can someone just send me a, if you can't see that, can someone please just send me a message to say I can't see it? If I don't get anything through, I'm going to assume that we can all see it. And I'm not going to be talking to myself for the next half an hour. So we can see it fine. Perfect. That's what we like. Okay, so as I said, we are going to talk about client onboarding processes this evening. One of the biggest sort of things that I preach about time and time again. So essentially, my aim for this evening is to, as always, provide you with as much information, advice, guidance as I possibly can. I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I really want to dig into this. But essentially, there are some people on this call at the moment, or if you're watching on the replay, you may have an onboarding process that needs a bit of tweaking. You may have nothing at all and think of what you want about. So it can be to introduce you just to the idea of how to bring on clients properly into your business. And then essentially, I'm going to take a few questions. If anything comes through, as I say, I will try and pick those up as we go along, or I will take questions at the end. These webinars tend to last for about 30 to 45 minutes. Ideally, I like to really get through this in 30 minutes. I think we can do that. If there's questions at the end, more than happy to spend the extra 15 going through those. And if there's not too much, then we'll knock it on the head there. So if essentially, what are you looking to get out of this? Why have you signed up to this webinar and wanting to be here? It's really interesting for myself to get some feedback on this and understand where people are in their journey. So either send me a message directly. If you don't like to post publicly, put it in the Q&A or the chat. I'd love to get a little bit of a feel in terms of why you're here, what you're looking to get out of this session. So the way that this is really going to work. So part one, we're going to go through clarity. Okay, why is a client onboarding process such a big deal? Why do I personally bang on about it all the time? Then we're going to go into building that process and how to actually build out that process, some of the things that we need to consider, how the sort of structure of that process needs to be built up, and then lastly, implementing. So essentially, who does what when? My video seems to have gone a bit funny. We okay? I think we're okay. Cool. So first of all, a quick introduction to myself. If you're watching this, you probably have heard me ramble on about who I am and what I do. But if you are watching this and you haven't got a clue, or on the replay, my name is Ashley. I started my cleaning company 4 years ago, well, probably 4.5, 5 years ago now, with, as I like to joke, nothing but a mop and a bucket and whoever I can rope in. Probably very similar story to many people who have started their business and just kind of fallen into it. They're trying to grow. Didn't have any investment, just wanted to start a business and just wanted to grow something. Essentially, I built that company from zero up to about 1.2 million at 3 years, and then now we're pushing up to or in and around the £2 million mark. And I'm essentially now teaching people the techniques, the methods, the processes, the strategies that I used myself in doing that, to essentially help people build their businesses in a similar way that I built mine. On the back of that commercial cleaning company, we have also built a couple of other hygiene management companies that are running very well at the moment, and on track to do some big numbers this year. So that is exciting stuff. But essentially, I specialize. I say I specialize. I've built these companies through systems and process, and that's what I'm trying to help people with. Hence, my client onboarding process this evening. So, first of all, why do we need to have a seamless client onboarding process? Well, as I kind of said right at the beginning of this, it is the first thing that the client experiences. So you will obviously go through a sales process, which that's kind of a separate element here. But the client onboarding process is the first time that the client gets to experience you and your company as they are a client, a paying client of your business. So that's why I think they are so important. It sets the tone for the contract, the relationship, and sort of everything going forward from there. If the client feels that they can trust you, they have confidence in you, you handle queries well, you are forthcoming with information, you're going to have a lot better relationship with them moving forwards. And essentially, that client onboarding process will help you understand your clients better. So it's not just necessary for everything to do with the client. It also has a lot to do with you and your business as well, understanding the clients better, the contracts better, the sites better, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's really why we need this process in place. So from my experience talking to a ton of cleaning business owners, there are a couple of reasons why people haven't got those onboarding processes. And what they tend to be is people just don't see the importance. Why do I need to go through some sort of big process and make some circus out of just bringing a client on board? They've signed the contract, they're going to pay me money, I've got some staff to do the job. What else do I need to do? That's pretty much it, right? And I think that what that really comes down to is businesses don't value client relationships. I say this all the time, but people buy from people. They always have, they always will. So it really shows the value that you put into your relationship by having proper onboarding processes that really dive deep into what your clients want. And I feel that if we haven't got something like that, and we're not bothered, it's okay not knowing. That's a completely different thing. But wanting, to do better, but not being bothered, not really wanting to have an client onboarding process, it just shows lack of value in the relationship. Sorry guys, this evening I've got like this tickly cough going on, so you'll have to excuse me. But yeah, I feel that it really shows like lack of value in that relationship, and that comes across to the client as well. And lastly, that I think that people see it as a cleaning contract is a cleaning contract, right? All sites are the same. We are just cleaning. The client communication is the same. What we're doing is the same. And it's just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste until I reach a £1 billion company, right? And I mean, I'll dig into it in a minute, but that couldn't be further from the truth, right? And if you've got a number of cleaning contracts in your portfolio at the moment, you'll know that they've all got nuance, right? If you didn't understand the specifics of the contract, it would go very badly very quickly. So I think when people don't have a client onboarding process in place, they just feel like everything's the same. I've done this before. There's no need to put that time and effort into it. So part one, why is client onboarding so important? Now, I've kind of dug through a little bit of this already. However, the first thing from our side is understanding the operational requirements. There is a very big difference in client onboarding processes and sales processes. In a sales process, we do understand what the client wants, but only to a degree. Okay, so we understand the days, the times, some of the logistics around the contract so we can price things properly. But when we're selling, we're talking more about value-based things. We're talking more about emotion and feelings, and trying to sell on those sorts of emotive topics. When we're onboarding, everything is very, very binary. It's very black and white. We're looking for operational requirements. Okay, so what are the floors made of? What chemicals do we need? Where are the real physical priorities? Do we spend more time in the reception as opposed to the offices, or is there a director's meeting room that needs more attention that we build into our specifications? All of this information, the operational, the logistical stuff, comes into play when we're looking at the onboarding process. Okay, so that's why it's really important. Essentially, the second bullet point there gathers all the information needed for the contract. So everything that we need, we're pulling together on the client onboarding process. So not just the operational things in terms of internal priorities, but things like alarm codes. Where's the cleaning cupboard? How do we get into the cleaning cupboard? Where do you want us to park when we arrive to the site? Or how do we access the building? What time can we get there? When can we not get there? Do we need to sign in? A ton of things, right? There's so many things that logistically pieced together when we're building cleaning contracts, when we're sending staff into client sites. There's so many bits of information that we need. And that's why it's so key to collect all of this data on this process. Ultimately, it sets clear timeframes and expectations. So again, there's an element of expectations set in a sales process. There's probably a sentence in there somewhere to say, look, we'll set this up as quickly as possible for you. This is what we would normally do with recruitment and X, Y, and Z. But that onboarding process is the first point where you can give real expectations to the client. We all know that sometimes we're 2Ping staff or we're recruiting staff. And by the way, if we're not too clear what 2Ping is, drop me a message and I can run through that for you because I'll be here all night on that. But setting that expectation and letting the client know exactly what this is going to look like over the next 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks is really, really key. Some clients will sign a contract, expect you to be in next week. We all know, like 9 times out of 10, that's probably not going to happen, right? So it's setting timeframes, setting expectations, letting them know what to expect. And ultimately, the onboarding process also gives your team very clear responsibilities. Everybody in your team has a part to play in this process, be that a team of 3, 1, 10, 15, whatever. Everybody has their part to play. So having that onboarding process gives clarity to your team in terms of where they fit into this process. And equally, you can hold them accountable for that as well. I've just got a couple of questions coming through. Do you assign mobilization manager to the new contracts? So that very much depends on the size of your business and what you have internally. So I personally, we set up the internals of our company very differently to a lot of traditional cleaning companies. So we have an account manager who doesn't physically manage an account. They are basically like a customer service element. So they manage kind of the onboarding process, making sure the right people are doing the right things at the right times. And we leave a lot of the operational element to our operations team. So we have 3 sort of key managers who will either sort of be the operational point of contact to a client, and they will take the things like the pre-startup meetings, etc. The things that I'll dive into a little later. And a question underneath there, do you involve sales team in the mobilization onboarding process? So the sales team are the people who have won the contract, and therefore they have the relationship with the client. So if I was signing that contract and I had 3 months worth of conversations with that client, I understand what they want, what they need. I'm the friendly face that they pick up the phone to. And then all of a sudden, it's just someone else in the company and I just disappear. I think that sets a really sort of bad tone for, again, the relationship moving forward. So we use a sort of handover point, which is normally like a face-to-face meeting between the client, the salesperson who has signed the contract, and either the account manager or the operational point of contact. So it's face-to-face handover. This is what happens from here. Here you go. They can deal with everything that you need. Now, there's nothing more that I can do for you or with you. So I'm going to step away and I'm going to introduce this new person for you to build rapport with and relationship with. So that doesn't mean that they just step away forever. They can drop an email in to say, how's everything going? Do you need anything? Can I help? But ultimately, we want to move that contract along the line into like a more operational account management area as opposed to sales. Okay, so that's why things are so important. Also, guys, like continue to drop questions in. Love providing more value with what you guys want to know. So building your process. Now, I think people think of like any process in a business is some like massive thing with wads of policy behind it and all sorts of stuff. Okay, but there's a couple of ways in which I find it really easy to build processes. And the first thing is to put yourself in your client's shoes. Okay, so when we're starting from the ground up and building any process in the business, any process that is client facing, should I say, is put yourself in their shoes. And that's especially important with the client onboarding process. If you were a client, what would you want and expect? If you had an office or a med center or, production, whatever that looks like, what would you want? What would you want to hear? What would you want to know? How would you want to be spoken to? When would you want to be spoken to? And I think what you'll find the answer not to be is as soon as I sign the contract, I don't want to hear a thing until it starts, right? You're going to want contact. You're going to want to know where to go to, who to speak to, how things are going to happen. How long is it going to take? What do you need from me? Do I need to do anything? Are you waiting? So there's 100 things that you as the client want to know. So that's where I would start. The second thing is, what do you need to know as a service provider? Is it a case of you sign the contract and you can start? Can I just rock up one day and start the contract? Probably not. If you can, you're a smarter person than me. But we're going to want to know a ton of things, okay? So things like access to the site, things like alarm codes, logistical details, when can we get into the site? Do they need consumables providing? Are there upsell opportunities? If there's deep cleans, when can we schedule this? There's a ton of questions that we need to dig into that we wouldn't establish in the sales process. And then lastly there, in terms of building this process, is who needs to be involved in the process? Who needs to be responsible for what part of the process? As I said before, it doesn't matter whether there's just yourself, 3 people, 2 people, 5 people, 10 people on the back end of your business. There are a ton of different elements in terms of like areas of business that need to be involved in this. In fact, I would say it's probably one of the only, if not the only, process in which every business department needs to be involved. Sales, finance, operations, HR, recruitment, administration. There's a ton of things that really come into this process. So it's assigning the right responsibilities to the right people and understanding what part of the process needs to go in what direction. So again, and so I've kind of covered this previously, but what do sorry, I don't know if you can see my face. Let me just pull up a bit. What do we need to do? So what do we actually need to do when we're building an onboarding process? So there's understanding the site requirement. First and foremost, we should have got a lot of this information during the sales process, and sorry, I've just got a ton of messages coming through. It's like all angles this evening. So yeah, there's a ton of requirement that we need to understand. As I've already said, when do we go in? How do we get in? What time do we go in? Is it a key holder? Do we have keys? Do we have 2 sets of keys? Do we put a key site at the box, a key box at the site? What's the code to that? What's the code for the doors? What's the alarm process? Do we need to sign? There are a million things. Okay. We need to introduce the client point of contact. Okay, so be that somebody in like a client relationship role, customer service role, whether it's an area manager, regional manager, operations manager generally. We need to make an introduction. And like I've just said there in terms of answering that question, that is where we sort of hand over from sales into operations or client management as a kind of topic. That is that handover point in terms of introducing to the point of contact. We need to start our 2P or recruitment process. If we are taking over from an existing contractor, there will be 2P involved. Or if we are not and we're starting up afresh, there will obviously be recruitment involved. Both of these things take a lot of time. 2P, you need a minimum of 30 days to give notice to the members of staff who are being 2P'd. Recruitment, as we know in the cleaning industry, it could take 1 week, it could take 5, it could take 3 months. So we need to start these processes quickly. We need to place stock orders and make assessments. So we need to physically go to the site. We need to understand what chemicals do we need, what chemicals do we definitely not need, what equipment do we need, what color codes. Are there specialist things that we need to get on site? We need to order things like floor buffers, vacuum. Like there's a ton of things that we need to understand in terms of what we physically need on the site. And then we need to order that. Does it go directly to the site? Does it go to your office and you take it to the site? If we are ordering it, obviously we'll order it before the contract starts, but is it a day before and it goes directly to the client's site? Or do we order it weeks before and it comes to our office? So lots of things there. I hope you guys can see okay still. On my screen I've got a bit of a like funny camera going on, but as long as you can see in here. If you can't see or hear me, just drop a comment. We need to produce a site folder. Okay, so if you haven't got a site folder at the moment, we need to make one. They're especially important in places like medical centres, dental practices, places that are regulated with CQC. These site folders need to contain everything from risk assessments, safe systems of work, to cleaning specifications, office forms, health and safety manuals, a ton of stuff. I'm looking at ours up on the side at the minute and they're like this thick. So we need to create those. There are things that we need to create specifically for specific clients, job specifications, risk assessments, those sorts of things that are specific to sites. We need to then hold internal and external pre-startup meetings. So what I found is really useful is holding an internal pre-startup meeting if you've got a wider team. And I would say do this for, I suppose, any team, to be honest with you. I was going to say sort of 5 and above, but if you've got 3 different people and they do different business functions, we all need to know. So we hold an internal pre-startup meeting to get everybody in the know. Where's the site? When's it starting? What are we doing? Is it 2P? Is it recruitment? What stock do we need? What's the finance like? So on and so forth. And then we hold an external pre-startup meeting, which is a meeting with the client, your salesperson, or the person who has signed the contract, and your client point of contact as well. That's that introduction point as well. We need to log contract details on our client management software. So hopefully we've got something in place that holds all of our client details in a central location, and we put things on there like contact details, all the information that we're gathering about the site and the contract, it all goes in there. We then need to arrange the startup date. Okay, so this is kind of a logistical element that everything kind of needs to pull into. We need the staff and the new inductions on the start date. We need all the stock on the start date. We need operations to do inductions and site startups and maybe site reset cleans or deep cleans. Everything needs to like accumulate into this one final point. My last bullet point there is and so on, because there are just a ton of things. Under all of those headings there, I could probably list 5 to 10 individual tasks that we need to do on each element. So who does what and when? And I think in a minute I've got a copy of an actual process. Okay, so I don't know, screenshot it. But it's really, really useful. But essentially, who does what and when? So as I've already said, with the client onboarding process, it pulls all elements of your business together. You need to have amazing pinpoint communication between sales, admin, finance, recruitment, operations, your account management element of that, your HR, your stock, yourself as the business owner, and more importantly, the client. And it's making sure that that communication is really tight. So as we're onboarding these clients, everybody is in the know, everybody knows what is happening. When it comes to communication for this process specifically, I'd recommend using a really good task management system. There's a ton out there. They're mostly free. You can get some paid versions of task management softwares where you can have better like automation, integration, and that sort of stuff. I personally use Monday.com. It's a really good task management system. We pay about, I think it's about £6 or £7 per user per month. So at scale, I am spending money here. You will be spending money. I think I spend about £120 roughly on it a month. However, what that allows me to do is when we sign a new client, we put that new client's name in, we hit enter, it generates a ton of tasks for all of the areas that are needed. And as one thing gets updated, it updates everybody. So this has been done, that's been done, this has been done. It will automate as well. So you tick one box and it will notify the next person along that chain to say, this has been done, you now need to do this. So for example, we've held the external pre-startup meeting and have stock requirements. Please now order stock. Sounds simple, right? But having that online in a process-driven approach makes things really streamlined, really easy, and sort of virtually accessible as well. So this is what I was talking about a second ago, but this is what it should look like. And I'll spend a little bit of time here talking through this process. This is something that I've put together. So hopefully this should really give you an idea of exactly what I'm talking about here. Just before I jump into this, so this following example has been built for members of the growth team. I've built this, they've got access to this. This comes in like an editable Word version, so they can chop and change it. Got a ton of documents in there that people can use. So a bit of a shameless plug there, but the following is in the team. So people have access to this, can view it, can edit it, can change it to however they want. So this is, and I hope you can see this because I've got a kind of task bar across the top of my screen here where I've got my zoom up. But this is essentially what a client onboarding process should look like. So sort of moving down the left-hand side, all of the letters in bold are what element of the business it applies to. So we talked about sales, operations, recruitment, administration, account management, etc. That is kind of given an inclination in terms of what element of the business needs to do what. So even if I was working in a cleaning company and I was in the finance department, so to speak, I can look on here and I can see exactly where I fall into this process and when I need to do it. So again, the task management system that I was talking about previously takes this sort of 2D version and it makes it interactive, it makes it automated, integrates it into the systems that we've got into the business. And basically, as we complete one box of this flow chart, it moves on to the next and notifies the next people. It's a really good thing to have with a lot of your processes. But to very quickly run through this, so we'll have the proposal accepted. We then need to sort out contractual obligations, making sure things get signed, making sure we save those signed documents in accessible places. We then add new clients into the task management system. Okay. We then, as the salesperson, I need to arrange for a pre-startup meeting to happen internally. Recruitment need to then get involved and start recruitment processes, 2P processes. It then starts to move, it then shimmies across into like account management and administration. So setting up the back end details, sending out basic welcome emails to clients and explaining the process, what's going to happen now, keeping people in the loop, having really good communication. I think my camera's gone funny again, but if you can't hear me, let me know. So yeah, and then it starts to move through some of the back end things. So creating site folders, placing startup stock orders, creating site audits. Then it moves across into operational remit. So holding external pre-start meetings with the salesperson, completing pre-startup forms. So we've got documented records of everything. And then, as I said before, everything then kind of accumulates into that site startup. Okay, so having that site startup pulls together recruitment, the account management, the operations, the administration, everything into one place to actually do the startup of this contract. And then from there, it kind of then hands over from an onboarding process into more of a client management and account management process. So a few questions come through. They're all in different orders. Do you quote in person or do you quote from the inquiry? So always quote in person. I think when it comes to quoting, there's that. I mean, that obviously falls into the sales process. That's a topic in itself. But I will send you a message directly afterwards or a voice note, and I'll talk you through how we go about quoting from inquiries and inbound leads, because I think there's a ton of value that I can give you there. But I wouldn't say that the quote itself feeds directly into the client onboarding. But I'll send you a message straight afterwards, and I'll let you know exactly what I do there. So basically, a quick offer for this webinar. I said that I would be giving away an offer for everybody on this webinar, whether you're watching it now in real time, whether you're watching the replay. I'll be holding some one-on-one sessions, 15-minute sessions to help you build an onboarding process. So if you want to take advantage of that, just drop me a message afterwards. You can get hold of me wherever you have found the link for this webinar. Probably, I would suggest on Facebook. So just drop me a message on there. We'll book in a 15-minute call, and I'll just help you with a few sort of, whether it's tweaking a process that's existing, whether it's helping you just put something together, because I appreciate what I'm talking about here may apply directly to your business. It may not, because you may feel that I haven't got a massive back-end team. So what do I do if I haven't got sales, finance, operations, blah, 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 blah. So I can give you a little bit of insight in terms of how that will work for the size and scale of your business. So drop me a message and we'll book in a 15-minute call for that. So lastly, I mentioned the growth team a little early on, but essentially what we're trying to do here is help as many cleaning company owners start, grow, and scale their businesses. Okay, we do this by providing value on the things that I've just talked about, helping people with their processes, building their company, getting more clients, and generally moving towards their goals. We do this by having access to myself and my team, so my business team, my sales experts who have signed over £1 million in business in cleaning contracts, not just any sales, cleaning contracts. You can have access to our recruitment, head of recruitment. She's hired over, I think we're over about 600 cleaners at the moment in terms of her actually hiring them. Finance team. And if you saw the lives earlier today on Facebook, we now have Faye Mack joining the team, a biohazard specialist, someone who has built her business from nothing to a massive business. And has managed to automate that and take a step back. She's now a part of the team. She's one of our experts, and you will have access to her 24/7 as much as you do myself and my team. We do 90-day business strategy plans for all of our members. We have files and documents and processes. We have that in our portal. So process that you've just seen, that's just kind of one part of a very big thing that we give to our members. We do work reviews, so proposals, pricing, that sort of stuff, things that are going to be sent to clients who will do work reviews for you. And we also do done for you services. So if you actually say, do you know what, Ashley, I don't know how to do this, can you do it for me? We can also do that for you. So if you're watching that, any of that sounds like it would really help you, just pop me a message and I will give you some more information there. Now, I don't think I've done too badly on time there. We're at about 35 minutes. I've got a little bit of time here for any questions that you want to jump into. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Should bring me back. So I'm here if people have got questions. I know we've been kind of answering them as we go through. So now is the time to pop something in there if you haven't already. I'll twiddle my thumbs in the meantime. Give you a second. Doesn't seem like anything at the moment. Like I said right at the beginning, though, if you're in the growth team, I can see a few people here that are, and you want to double down on these processes or on the client onboarding process, please just book a call in with me. We'll spend half an hour and we'll dig into this in a little bit more detail for you. But as oh, hang on, there is a question that comes through. I was just about to wrap things up by the skin of your teeth. Do something. I'm keen to get the process started on Monday. Lovely, perfect, amazing. So we can jump on a call or message, however you want to do that, and we can dig into this. But I know that you've been looking at processes generally, and we've got some bits of work to do around building those processes. So yeah, lovely guys. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Great turnout this evening. If you need anything, please drop me a message on Facebook. If you want to learn a little bit more about the growth team and becoming a part of that, then again, just send me a message. Hope this has been massively valuable for you guys, and I will see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much.